Hey, welcome back. Today I felt like diving into yet another Tales from the Crypt. And since Demi Moore was up for an Oscar, which she should have won by the way, I figured we could have a little peek at the Tales from the Crypt episode Dead Right. Dead Right begins with Kathy, played by the very beautiful Demi Moore, a woman whose only goal in life is to get rich. Because as we all know, the best way to get rich is by speaking to a con artist.
I have what people call the second sight.
What she means is she makes shit up. This is why she charges $20 prior to doing her little reading. Madame Vorna starts with her nonsense and she's like, oh, you're a working girl. Like, wow, what an astute observation. It's not like Kathy came in saying this won't go over her lunch hour, signifying that she works, but please, Madame Vorna, do go on. She guesses correctly that Kathy is his secretary and has always wanted to marry for money. Seeing as how this takes place sometime in the 1950s, I'd say that's a pretty easy guess considering that most women were just housewives at this point. Vorna tells Kathy that she's gonna lose her job today, but Kathy's like, that jerk is out of town. I'm not losing my job. Not only will Kathy lose her job, but she'll get a new one, so it's a win-win, I guess. Kathy arrives back at work and gives her friend Sally an earful because it was her idea to see this fraudster Madame Vorna.
I told her that asshole's not even in town.
Actually, Miss Finch, that asshole came back unexpectedly.
Oh, that's horrible timing. He seems like a pretty chill guy though, because even though she just called him an asshole, he's like, that's fine. I've been called way worse, but you're 25 minutes late, so you're fired. I guess the clock at Madame Vorna's was a bit slow, causing Kathy to arrive late after her lunch. She must do this frequently because who gets fired after coming in late one time? As Kathy takes her walk home after being fired, she gets offered a waitressing gig by a guy who's like, hey dollface, you need a job? It seems that Madame Vorna was right. She did lose her job and she got a new one, but it kinda was Vorna's fault Kathy lost her job to begin with. You think her clock is always running slow so she can tell everyone that comes in that they're gonna get fired and find a new job? Seems like a good grift.
Every exit is an entrance someplace else.
No, I'd say some places are exits only. Madame Vorna tells Kathy about some money she sees in her future and her wedding day with a man. Kathy's like, yeah, wedding, nice. Anyways, back to the money you said I was getting? Unfortunately for Kathy, the guy she apparently marries won't be wealthy at the time of their wedding, but he'll come into money later down the line. Kathy is a very sweet, loving girl. If the man doesn't have money right now, she isn't interested.
Furs, diamond rings, mink coats.
Boats and coats.
Madame Vorna, it's actually boats and hoes.
Boats and hoes, boats and hoes. I gotta have me my boats and hoes.
Madame Vorna then tells Kathy that her new husband will inherit money after someone very close to him dies. And then shortly after that, he'll die in a violent manner. Kathy's like, he'll be dead and I'll have all the money? Sign me up. Vorna tells her she'll meet this man tonight. A very large man.
He's fat!
That night, Kathy starts her new job at only the classiest establishment. Although does it count as a strip club when the women come out already stripped? I feel like we've skipped a step here.
Which guy? How can you miss him? He's so big he probably has his own zip code.
I don't think Kathy is into bigger guys, but is she forgetting what Vorna said? Kathy takes the man's order and then he asks her about a date after work. She's like, as if, fatso. You'd think the guy would get the hint, but he thinks she's just trying to play hard to get.
One Rob Roy for the fat boy.
The moment she calls him fat boy, it suddenly dawns on her that this could be the guy. This disgusting slob could be her meal ticket. I'll say though, Charlie here has some balls. I don't know too many guys that would be this persistent with a woman that shot them down.
We're gonna be together. It's destiny.
Alright Charlie, now you're going full creeper. Kathy bolts it back to Madame Vorna's and she's like, that disgusting creep can't be the one I'm supposed to marry. Unfortunately, he is. But remember, once she marries him, he'll inherit some money and then die. Kathy is out for lunch with her friend Sally, and Sally is doing everything she can to convince Kathy to just marry the guy. Madame Vorna has never really done Sally wrong, but Madame Vorna has also never told her to marry a gross slob that doesn't brush his teeth. The two ladies then fantasize over how he might die. More TV shows need to use bad dummies. Alright, someone get their mom. Charlie waddles in the strip club and again tries getting Kathy to go out with him. She almost says no, but remembering what Madame Vorna says, she actually agrees to a date. Can she even breathe in that dress? Also look at her body language. Something tells me she's really enjoying herself.
Actually, I'm pretty light on my feet.
Yeah.
I'm honestly surprised he can move and talk without being winded. Before the night ends, Charlie plants a little kiss on her, and imagine the smell. If a kiss causes your date to vomit, I think it's time to see a dentist. After only a few dates, Charlie musters up the courage to ask Kathy to marry him. Kathy looks at him and is like, marriage, eh? You got any rich relatives? You know, on the off chance something happens and we need a little help? Charlie mentions his rich uncle and Kathy immediately says yes. She doesn't even know if it's true. He could have just made it up, but it's too late to back out now.
Can hardly speak, and I seem to.
How quickly do you think she's regretting her decision? Who would have thunk that a gross slob would lay around and eat while she took care of everything? Sure, it's the 1950s and many housewives sort of did that, but most of their husbands weren't Charlie.
Let me give you a dose of extra strength, Charlie Marno.
Please, dear God, no. Kathy asks Charlie if he's heard from his rich uncle lately. Charlie's like, nah, why would he? He lives out west with his family. Kathy then loses her damn mind. Charlie never mentioned his uncle had a family before. If he had, she probably would have said no to the marriage. But this is kind of her fault. All she heard was rich uncle and she dove right in. She didn't even bother asking any more questions. Kathy visits with Madame Vorna to give her crap about her visions. I understand she's frustrated, but it's kinda Kathy's fault for seeing a psychic in the first place. Still though, Vorna harps on about Charlie inheriting money and then dying.
Vorna is right. Vorna is always right.
You can't just break the fourth wall, lady. What is this, a lazy Marvel movie? Kathy heads to the local automat for a little lunch when she's bull rushed by reporters and I'm assuming managers from the company. Turns out Kathy is their 1 millionth customer and she's handed a check for $1 million.
Madame Vorna's a dumb bitch.
Well, she was kinda right. Marno did win a bunch of money, just not the one she claimed. Kathy returns home, obviously not before doing a little shopping, because we all know there's nothing women love more than shopping.
You fat, disgusting slob.
Doesn't quite have the same ring as Honey, I'm Home. Charlie is obviously confused because where the hell did she get all these clothes? And why is she talking about some Madame Vorna? Kathy tells him she's leaving because she's had enough of him and his smells. I kind of feel bad for Charlie. Sure, he's a disgusting slob and he's kinda creepy. On second thought, Kathy, you should run. You know, I'll say that at least Charlie takes it well. It's not like he overreacts. Hey, what you doing with that knife, Charlie?
I can't have you. Nobody can.
Gotta love the classics. Alright, Charlie has full-on lost his mind. Although, did he ever really have it? It takes a special kind of guy to visit a strip club day in and day out. I'm not sure it was the best place to pick up a husband.
Yeah.
Alright, Charlie, relax. I think once was enough. Well, I guess Madame Vorna was right. Charlie did inherit some money, and it looks like he's about to die. Just as she said. But are murderers eligible for inheriting money from a spouse they murdered?
I heard you can tell the future.
She heard correctly, didn't she, Trotsky?
Dead Right is based off the story of the same name found in Shock Suspense Stories number 6. Released December 1952, the cover features artwork by Wally Wood, and let's have a look at that artwork. Oh boy. Well now, it features some men wearing hooded robes, carrying torches and whips. At least the hoods are red? Dead Right was written by Al Feldstein with art by Jack Kamen. Kathy, a very classy lady, drinks the last of her tea and waits as Madame Vorna reads the remaining leaves. This isn't the first time Kathy has had her tea leaves read. 4 times prior, Madame Vorna has read her leaves, and 4 times her predictions have come true. Madame Vorna knows she's a working girl, but has always wanted to marry. Marry for money, that is. Madame Vorna tells her today that she'll lose her job, but Kathy blows her off. Her boss, Mr. Clayton, is out of town. There's no way he could fire her. When Kathy returns to work, it turns out Mr. Clayton decided to come in, and he is not happy. It looks like Kathy took an extended lunch break going 25 minutes over, and because of this, he fires her on the spot. Kathy returns to Madame Vorna and notices her clock is a half hour slow. But Madame Vorna just says, well, how could she know her boss would come back unexpectedly? Isn't that kinda your job? Madame Vorna tells Kathy she'll find a new job today and a wealthy man. Madame Vorna was right about one thing, Kathy did find a new job. But what she's more interested in is learning more about this man. Madame Vorna says she'll marry this man, but he won't be rich at the time of their marriage. Kathy scoffs at the idea because there's no way she'd marry a man who wasn't already rich. Madame Vorna explains that the man will inherit the money soon after the marriage. Tomorrow, a large man will ask her out on a date, and Madame Vorna was right. The next day, a large, repugnant man did ask Kathy out, but there's no way she could say yes to this. Kathy returns to Madame Vorna, who tells her the man will inherit the money and then shortly after die a violent death, leaving Kathy a widow, a very wealthy widow. She also goes on to tell Kathy that the man will ask her out once again, and he already did. Earlier that afternoon, he made an attempt, but again Kathy shot him down. Kathy again asks about this wealthy man that she's gonna marry, but what she's not understanding is this gross slob of a man that keeps asking her out is the man she's gonna marry. She doesn't handle it so well, but after a night of smoking in bed, she thinks it over and Madame Vorna has been right in the past, and she did say this man would die shortly after getting married, so she might as well give it a shot. The man once again inquires about a date, and doing her best to hide her revulsion, Kathy says yes. The two go out for a night of movies and dancing. All the while, Kathy prays she's not making a big mistake. The next day, she returns to Madame Vorna because she needs to be sure this is the right man. The tea leaves spell out the initials CM, which Kathy takes as a sign because the man she went out with last night is named Charlie Marno. On top of this, Madame Vorna claims she can see Charlie inheriting $25,000, which is really all Kathy needed to hear to continue the charade. Several weeks later, Charlie proposes to Kathy. He says he doesn't have much now, but he's got some prospects lined up. Kathy asks if he has any wealthy relatives, to which he tells her about his rich uncle. After hearing about the rich uncle, Kathy immediately says yes to his proposal. The two embrace as Kathy tries not to lose her lunch. After their marriage, the newlywed couple went on a cheap honeymoon at a cheap hotel near a cheap beach. Kathy was embarrassed to be seen with her new husband as he spilled out of his bathing suit, but at least the fresh air helped with the smell. After the honeymoon, Kathy asks Charlie about his uncle, to which he tells her he's out west with his family. Family? He never mentioned his uncle had family. How would Charlie be left with the money now? Kathy returns to Madame Vorna asking when Charlie will receive this money, to which Vorna tells her soon, and then his death. That night, Charlie tries calling Kathy to bed for a little late-night rendezvous, but she's a little too tired. He can go to bed himself. The next day, as Kathy stood at the local cafeteria for lunch, she noticed that everyone seemed to have their eyes on her. Suddenly, reporters and a manager from the cafeteria sprang up and told Kathy she was the 1 millionth customer and quickly handed her a check for $25,000. Kathy was shocked. Madame Vorna was wrong. She was the one that got the money, and now finally she can rid herself of that slovenly man. Kathy, that you? Yes, it's me, you disgusting pig. Kathy starts ranting about Madame Vorna being wrong, much to the confusion of Charlie. Right then and there, Kathy tells Charlie that she's leaving him. A confused and heartbroken Charlie blocks the door, but she isn't staying. A crazed look washes over Charlie's face. Suddenly, he raises a knife in the air. If I can't have you, then nobody can. Charlie, put down that knife. Charlie plunges the knife down into Kathy's chest over and over. A day after the murder of Kathy Marno, a newspaper comes to rest on the grave paid for by Charlie's inheritance. It reads, Charles Marno dies in chair. Dead Right is a fun story that sort of takes the classic Monkey's Paw fable and gives it the old EC Comics twist. All Kathy wanted was to become rich, and as quickly as it came, she went. What I enjoy about this one are the performances put in by Demi Moore as Kathy and Jeffrey Tambor as Charlie. Demi is really good at playing the kind of woman that would only be interested in someone because of their money and not because of who they are as a person. But to be fair, I don't think there was much to like in Charlie. I'm sure he cared about her in his own way, but he was kind of gross and very creepy. I mean, what kind of guy corners a woman and tells her, we're gonna be together? That right there should have set off some alarms that there's something off about this guy. Jeffrey Tambor, who's pretty unrecognizable under all that makeup, is really good at playing the disgusting nature of Charlie. His mannerisms and how he talks just add to the creep vibe that his character gives off. I also like how they tried to make the characters look like their comic counterparts. They went out of their way to make Jeffrey look like the comic Charlie with the comb over and the big nose. I'm just glad they skipped the part where they went to the beach. The stories between the episode and comic are nearly identical, but there's one thing they changed and updated from the comic: the amount of money Kathy received. In the comic, it's $25,000, which is a lot of money by 1950 standards. However, in this show, which also takes place in the 1950s, she wins $1 million. That's an insane amount of money to win for simply getting lunch at an automat. But other than this one minor change, it's basically the exact same story. If you've never seen Dead Right, I say check it out, it's pretty fun. But if you have seen it, what do you think of it? Also, if there's a Tales from the Crypt you want to see me cover, let me know down in the comments. Anyways, that's all for today. I hope I see you in the next one, and stay spooky.
It will thicken and disgust you. It's me!